Hello, welcome back to Bame Farm. Brad's having some Christmas morning fun trying to open this box. Yeah. Well, you saw how I kind of pulled this tab. Okay, just kind of like one of them wristbands they give you when you go in the club. So what do we have in this lovely crate? It's about chicken size. Oh, we're finding out if we can quick pull the boards off. They used a lot of nails, tons of nails. Tons and tons of nails. Let's see, what is today's date? It is Saturday,
16th.
September the 16th. Yep. It's flying by mid-month. Well, I'm sure everybody knows the woes we've been having with a couple of things to fix, like the silage chopper, so I'm kind of going to give that hint away, what might be in this box, as soon as Brad pries the last board out here. Now, I'd say we're doing better than OLF. He spent a lot of money for electronics. At least we get a giant chunk of copper, and maybe there's a little bit of steel involved in its construction. Okay, there's another big hint to give it away. We got a big radiator for the silage chopper. It's definitely not the original one. It's a little bit shorter. It looks like it's about as wide. It's not quite set up the same. It's going to take a little bit of creativity, but the original radiator was not available from the factory, which we have that removed. Guess I could quick show you that hole we have going. Now it mounts in a similar fashion at the bottom with a bolt in this corner and this corner, but the spacing doesn't look to match the old radiator as well. But it's a start. It's the best thing we could find. We tried looking at radiators from combines that had that cat engine, and they were way too wide. So we'll quick take a trip over to the chopper and show you the open gaping hole we have, and then we'll get to the other silage chopper project. The light's bright over there in the corner. So we're back at the silage chopper, the big 1890. And this is the hole we're working with. Now that radiator, like, we got a 27-inch hole and it's pretty close to that. But it's gonna be a few inches shorter. Actually, those bolt holes might be close. They were pretty far out to the edge. More so than I expected, because these are our bounds. The radiator sat down in here. They tried to seal it so all the air had to come through a screen. So most of you say dust, but chopped corn pieces, usually leaf, will get stuck to the big screen, kind of like it is there. I took the fan off. I don't know why. It was somewhat in the way. Now, at worst, it looks like, for the correct width, we're just going to have to move the mounts or do something, put a big block, chunk of rubber, to move the radiator up a few inches to center it around our fan. Now, I'm surprised the radiator hasn't been replaced before, because we know the water pump has been replaced. Given that the fan blades are chewed up. But yeah, so maybe the radiator survived, but it did tear up the old fan shroud. So that's this project, what it might require, a little bit of creativity. And we'll take you up to the house to show you what we're doing with the flail chopper and how much fun I've had with that. I wish I could be lazy like the cat. We're back up here at the house. Our auger we replaced last year looks great. And we have this all torn apart. Gearbox is in the garage. Now luckily, we have all of this brand new. This is the coupler from the gearbox onto that shaft. But we got this piece, a new chain, and this piece new, plus the I guess dogs or ratchet fingers. The disc bearings, those are a part I was using to pull the shaft out of the rotor. And I couldn't believe that there was nothing holding it in place. Like, I was fighting tooth and nail. I had used the disc bearings and the kind of the lock nut or jam nut they have to put on it. Try to pull, like tighten it down to pull the shaft out. Well, for the life of me, like, I'm sitting here with my giant leverage device, trying to pull it out, or twist it. Like, I got all my weight on the end of this. I'm going to strip the threads soon. Well, if we look down into the darkness, you see my finger, there's a set screw. And if it's anything like the PTO, the set screw for the PTO has got that point that sinks into the shaft to really lock it in place. And I bet that's what I have over here. And last night as it was getting dark, I couldn't figure that out. Also, okay, so the pulley here in the vines bolts onto this big guy. And for the life of me and Brad, we couldn't get that off. And you slide it on there, and it's so smooth. Now, if we look at our moon key, something about it, it's not sheared, but if you look real close, you can see how it's worn. That the moon key is the tight fit. And we fought tooth and nail. You can see we fought tooth and nail. That's where we had the end of the gear puller pulling this sucker off. So we're going to get a newer moon key and make sure it's not such a snug fit. That way, I don't know how we'd ever get it on, because how we fought taking it off, I don't know how we're ever going to get it back on. And that's where those ratchet dogs ride. Now, you see that hole right there? This piece sits inside. I never realized there was a grease fitting in there, so we never greased that. And you can see there's hardly any bushing left. Like, there's a bushing there, but you can barely see it. The new one has their spot for a grease zerk, obviously. Oh, when we took this off, there's a spring that goes there to help with raising and lowering the whole machine, so we could get that big pulley off. The old bearing was very worn. There was nothing left to it, so all I had to do was get all the balls to one side and punch a ball out. And we got the bearing housing. We have to reuse this bearing housing, because the new one wasn't very cheap. We have, in my book, what I would pay for a flail chopper about doubled the value with the parts we bought for it. Especially putting a new auger in. This thing, only thing we haven't put new in the last few years is bearings for the flails. And I know those were replaced before we got it, just looking at the paint marks. So I'm going to get to fighting this again. Hopefully I'll get back to you guys and we'll have the shaft pulled out. I'm going to get the set screw that's buried deep in here. And I hope it goes much smoother than last night. Just had to sleep on it and let half a day pass. Yep, I was going to make sure we get that line back up. Put it in. Hey everybody, look what Brad's holding. His shaft. Stop it. Yep. I made that trying to turn it before I found that, so we're going to have to grind that off. Nothing turns there. That's a still connection.
Yeah.
So yep, that's what we got. Bearing is coming off. There is just a slight lip, ever so slight.
Mm-hmm.
I would expected more of a lip. So there it is. I guess I can't remember which way that came out. I put it back in. Well, I guess we can guess.
The spine's going first.
Yeah. Yeehaw. Now, I had to figure out how to get this side apart. There's a bearing in there we want.
Come right off, right?
Yeah, that's loose. That's definitely worn. think you want to tangle with that thing too much. That's... Whew. Yeah, there's not a bit of sharpness left of these. I don't know whether we're worried about having them sharp. It doesn't cut it up very well because it can just suck it right out of the end of the auger. It's not like there's a slow feed mechanism. That's a special plate. This has been a part before, or something's been a part right there for that paddle. Barely, it doesn't have very good cup to it. And now we can get to the back side of our bearing down here and see, ew. Yeah. So I want to take it out, see what we got going on. Hopefully I can get the bearing out of there and the retainer. I can get to it much easier now. It's amazing what little one little bolt will do, the set screw. Okay, that's a quick little update showing how destruction's going. Hello, we're having more fun on a different day on this project. Unfortunately, it's going slow at the flail chopper. So I ran into a bit of a problem. This pin is put in place, and there's supposed to be like a finger for an overrun clutch. Well, the roll pin had been tapped back in, and it was mushroomed. So how do you get that out? Well, luckily this hole is a through and through, and these holes are pretty close to 8-penny nail size. See the 8-penny nail? Well, it doesn't look like it's going in. That's because it's kind of, I don't know, got some extra little something there on the ends to make it a little bigger than it is round. So cut that off. Now these holes aren't perfectly opposed to each other. Like if I put that through, it would be at an angle. So carefully I was able to bend a nail and tap it in there to push it out. Now I've got the nail end in here. I've already done most of the hammering, unfortunately. I think I got the roll pin out far enough. I should just be able to pull it out with pliers. Now I've bent, let's see, I used this nail. You can kind of see how bent that is. And that one extracts out nicely. But that one I was running out of nails, getting too short, and I would keep bending it every time I hammered it in. So now I can put the fingers for the overrun clutch in for the first time. Now that they were put in backwards, I just want to put in. Right, Brad?
Mm-hmm.
I got some of our fun. Another little hassle we ran into. The gearbox had been rebuilt before, and we had this machine shipped to us out of Canada. So I don't know, maybe it wasn't available. There was supposed to be a snap ring that holds this gear on. It's welded in place, because I guess the extra little bit of spline had broken off. I'm hoping it's a brazing, and it's not a welding. Just kind of looking at the color of it. I'm going to carefully take the Dremel with a small grinding bit, try to grind those away. Then I got to slide the gear off, because the bearing has got a snap ring. The bearing will only come out of there one direction, and that's at us. But then it won't come off the shaft, because there's a lip. So that's the other fun. We got this. I think you guys saw we got the rotor out, so that's going well. And there's the radiator for the big chopper. Disassembly. Getting the one bearing housing out on the inside. I got the bolts out. It just doesn't want to fall out of its place. I hope there's nothing else we got to remove. I'm gonna be really mad if there is. It's like everything on this is bolted together. It's very uniframed, unibody almost. Okay, well, that's that quick little peek, see what we're working on. I'll get back to you when things are maybe going better. Okay, so we got our bearing tapped onto our shaft. That wasn't quite as a smooth move as putting this bearing in by heating and cooling. We did that the loud and hard way. Now we have to get our spot there lined up with our hole to put the set screw through. We're kind of gaze in from the top, take a bit of a guesstimate, and hope I get the angle correct. I don't know if this shaft will only go in one way or not. So we're going to find out. Oh, it will go in multiple ways. Okay. But I want to go right there. I like that angle. And just shove it in. And hope we do it right the first time. Okay, so the fun part about set screws is they have a square head. Luckily, it matches the 1/2-inch drive. So we have all our extensions turned backwards, and somehow we got a couple 2 sockets. Now we both have 3/4-inch sockets, and I got a nut on a bolt jammed all the way in because nothing has enough length itself. And as long as I can keep the things from the nut and the bolt from sliding all the way in, I've already got it tight. And I'll probably jam it together really bad here is our coupling. And you can kind of see I have it most of the way tight already. So we can really get our set screw. There's a jam nut there, and we're turning, and the jam nut isn't. So I'd say we're all the way tight. And it's just hard to get a wrench in there. We got lucky we just had the right size set screw. So that was another fun tips and tricks with Bame Farm. I don't think anybody showed me this. I don't know if I've seen it anywhere. It'd be easier if we had a really long double nut that would accept like rod from both ends. I've seen those before when you're dealing with long sections of threaded rod. But we don't have any. So we had to make this fun contraption with a nut and bolt. Okay, we have... That's all together. It's all tight. It should all be in place.
This is dirt. Not your hand.
Well, yeah. It's clean enough. This isn't like fancy, take it to your dealer clean. So we can start putting everything on. We can put the spout on, work on this end, keep Brad busy, keep everybody busy with assembly. Next thing in this direction is put the pulley on, and then it's gearbox time. Okay, check you shortly with more action.